It is free. Free. Yeah, now I have to warn you, the college.
Is that the kind of the college level when you say contact you? Does that mean it's mainly just entry level positions, or would you managerial?
A little bit of everything. We let them know that because we're open to the public, anyone can see that database who comes in and finds out about it, basically. So we encourage them to post their management or full-time, part-time, around school schedules, someone who's not in school, and they understand that now. So we have kind of a mix of everything.
Oh, okay.
So
all level.
yeah, they have engineer positions they post, and they know we don't have engineers at the associate degree level, so they know that other people are looking. So,
Okay, then.
but I just want to, it's on the back side of our flyer, so I don't want you to miss that. So anyway, lots of good flyers over there. Besides the Career Center, there's the Work Source Center. We have a flyer for them as well, and then the Goodwill Resource Center, which is fairly new in town on Lyons Avenue here. So they're all local and all free.
Anthony?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm old, but I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
Oh, I will talk a little louder.
That would
Thank
be
you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Okay. So we're going to talk about resumes, and this is a 3-hour workshop for me. So I'm going to go as fast as I can and include as much information as I can. But if you have questions, so that I don't go too fast, feel free to ask questions. Raise your hand if you have a situation. I talk with my hands, and I'll move the mic over. So we have a handout. We do need to get the resume handout passed around.
I think they have that, and they have the job description.
Excellent.
Because I think you were going to talk about the two together,
Right.
which will tie into the interview.
Very good. We put together a generic job description. This job is not open, so don't try to call the 555 number. But it is a job description that is pretty general. It's for an office job, an office clerk, fairly entry level. And we asked for a lot of things on it. I wrote all over mine, so yours looks a little bit different. But I put together a resume for this job. So let me tell you a little bit about resumes if you haven't heard. How many here have one resume that you send everywhere? You kind of put it all together. You know where I'm headed with this, the ones who know. Okay, so I used to have one resume. I took all my background, my experience, my education, my training, put it all onto a piece of paper, and I started applying to companies. In my case, I was applying to colleges, and I was getting no response. And I kind of wondered what was going on. I figured, well, maybe you have to know someone in the college system. I did that for 2 years, and I think I got 2 interviews in 2 years. It wasn't a good response. I was working at the time, granted. But trying to get in, and no one's calling. And I got a little frustrated. I decided I was going to try one more job in the college system, then I was going to change to a different field, maybe engineering or something. So I took their job description, and I thought, this is my last shot. I'm going to give it one more chance. What am I doing wrong? Is there something I can do differently? So I came up with this great idea. I'm going to force them to call me in. Now, how can I force them to call me in? Well, if I copy their job description word for word and put everything that they asked for on my resume, then they have to call me because I'll be the perfect candidate. In fact, I have my backup plan. If they don't call me, then I can sue them because there's some discrimination happening. I gave them everything they wanted. I had this plan. I was up to, because after 2 years, remember, I was in a different place. Yeah. So I do this. I'm copying everything out, and it turns out I can copy a lot of stuff. I was pretty qualified. I felt really good, right? And I'm copying it. And of course, what I'm doing without realizing it is customizing my resume. I'm taking what they asked for and actually giving it to them. My resume got very long. I learned something very quickly. I had to combine things. I didn't want to delete things. Right? If I delete a skill, then I'm one skill short of maybe getting the job or getting someone's interest up. So a lot of the time when we try to customize, we put something on and then we delete something to make room for it. We want to learn to combine things. Right? So I looked in there and I did what I call coding now, but I looked for similar things. Must be able to communicate well, must be able to build relationships, must be able to work in a team. Well, shoot, I can combine all 3 of those, work well in a team through communicating with other people, establishing strong relationships, and I created this really cool bullet that I can knock off 3 things, right? Became a wordsmith, and I created these new things, but I used all of their words on my resume. I got called in for an interview. I was sure I was busted for copying. And I was going to be in trouble. So I show up to the interview and they ask me really good questions. I think what they saw is this guy is too good to be true on paper. So we need to talk to him and find out if he's lying. And it got me the interview. Right? The best thing I ever learned was to learn to copy. They give you permission to copy a job description. It is not copyrighted. You can't get in trouble for plagiarizing. The key to it when you do the copying, of course, isn't just to do copy and paste and hand them their job description. They're probably not going to call you. Right? You have to mix in your skills, your background, your experience as it applies to each one of their requests. And then you got yourself a really good customer's resume. So my process with this job description that we put together was to go through it and figure out what they were really looking for. Right? What are they really looking for so I could find those similar things and I could copy them onto my resume. And I looked through it and I saw a lot of clerical stuff. Filing, typing, record keeping, ordering supplies, lots of things like that, office stuff. Then I saw another component, working with people, right? It said communication skills, answering questions, explaining information to people. So that's people stuff, right? So I made my little code right here. I have things with paper, things with people, and the final component was computers. And it mentioned using computer terminals, input and data entry into the computer. And that was my third thing. This whole job description, a whole page long, comes down to just three things. Do I have people skills? Do I have office administrative skills? And do I have the computer skills? And now I can customize, right? Because I got 3 bullets, really strong bullets that are going to cover those things. And the employer is going to see that I have people skills, office skills, and feel a lot better that they're calling it someone who matches their job description. So let's look at how it works. We have a sample resume here. And I'm going to go through the format of the resume, and then we'll look at how it matches this job description. So we start off at the top, and I'm going to move really quick because these are really basic things, but if you have a question, just feel free to ask. Start off with your name, address, city, state, zip code, phone number, and an email address so they can reach you through email. Someone asked if they can put their LinkedIn address on there too. You certainly can. There's a lot of good stuff that we put on our LinkedIn if you're online. If you have a website, you're in the graphic arts field, you can put a website address there. But this is your contact information. A couple warnings. If I call your phone, I want to hear a professional message. I don't want to hear music playing or dogs barking in the back, kids crying. There's all kinds of neat things we hear in the background that distract us as employers. We want to hear it in a quiet room. You know, I'm not able to get to the phone at this time. Please leave a message. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Very simple. And the reason that always comes to mind is I usually have a group of young kids in the room, and they just have the worst messages ever. you may know some. So, email addresses also have to be professional. So this person used their name, Jane Doe, 2000. That's fine. You don't want to see, you know, sexy mama, or she's a really bad surfer dude. Yeah, you know, they're cool. They got one. You know, they thought it was really neat, but it doesn't work with an employer. An employer will screen you out very quickly on even the little things like that. We had someone who said family of 5. Now, what's wrong with family of 5? Anyone want to take a guess?
Doesn't it have 5 kids?
Yeah, see, she picked up on that for whatever reason, but as an employer, family of 5 could mean I got a lot of kids involved here. And what's wrong with kids? Kids are cool, right?
Well, what comes
Not
along
if
with
they
it?
get sick.
What comes along with that?
Exactly. So as an employer, I have a concern possibly that little kids, maybe they're young, maybe they're old, didn't say their ages, but kids, doctor appointments, dinner on the table at 5, you gotta leave early, can't do overtime. I mean, I got concerns flying all over in my head. Now, will you ever find out I discriminated against you? No, you just won't get called. Yes.
Your family situation is one of those things the employers cannot ask you. So if you volunteer that information, you've already shot yourself in the foot.
Right. Don't offer what you don't need to.
It can also lead to age discrimination in that one too.
Oh, lots of
You've
different-
got 5 kids, those are your...
It's amazing how many people will use their age on their email. I mean,
Or the
it's
birth year.
Christine, 45. They go, you're 45 years old? How'd you know? And your email kind of told me, you know? Yeah, it's interesting. But you know, because email is a personal thing. When we create it, we have fun with it sometimes. We're looking for, you know, it's almost like license plates. We want to customize it, kind of neat so people know us. Not on a resume, right? Not a good place. Okay, so you're heading at the top. Objective. Now, a lot of people who apply for jobs don't put an objective on the resume. They'll put the objective on either the cover letter or in an email. You know, I'm applying for the position of office clerk. Please see my resume that explains what skills I have. So I go to your resume, and there's no objective there. If we were to cover it, it would go right into your skills or your work history. And I would get the feeling that, well, you know, this resume is probably being sent all over the place, because there's no branding for my company or this position on it. And so now I know you're looking for work all over. You could care less about my company, right? Because your resume went to my competitor probably too. And whoever hires you first wins. As an employer, and this is just something we need to understand, employers want to hire people who want to work at their company. Right? I want you to be smiling when you walk in for your interview, which is our next segment. But I want you to be smiling, I want you to be happy, I want you to write a resume for me and this position. So if you put an objective up here, the position of office clerk at whatever the company is, if you know it, College of the Canyons, then I go, wow, you wrote this resume for me. You must be serious about working here at College of the Canyons. It's a very simple thing to add on, just one line, customize with that job title and that company, and it can make a huge difference. At least it gets seen, it probably won't get you hired by itself, but the employer starts to think that you're serious about the job. There could be the stack of, you know, generic resumes and the stack of ones that look like you actually put some time into it. So big key with the objective, simple thing, but could make a difference. This next section, the highlight section, probably be key to your resume. How many have heard that you probably heard a different amount of seconds, but 5 seconds, 10 seconds that the employer is going to give you when they have a big stack of resumes, right? And they're going to go and they're going to skim because they're not going to have time to read your page or 2 pages or whatever. So they're going to read the top. So if we start off just with a bunch of information, they'll start to read the information and they might not get to the good stuff that might be halfway down the page or one of the jobs previous. So we create a highlight section. You can call it highlights, you can call it summary, you can call it profile, whatever you want to call it, but it summarizes what that employer needs to make you an offer. Not just to get their attention, but to make you an offer. Yes?
Nowadays, a lot of companies don't even actually have a person to scan or scan.
Right.
They actually have a computer.
Right. And that's where this is going to be real important. So here's what we do with the highlight section. We go to our job description and we say, what do they need? And we already determined the paper, the people, and the computer. And we have, you know, the details within. And on here, the highlights better reflect those 3 things. So the process starts with the job description and identifying what they need. Now I'm going to create a highlight section that matches that job. And I go in here and they asked for 1 year of clerical experience, including computers and so on. I've got over 2 years of clerical experience. First bullet, I meet one of the requirements. I let them know I have a little bit more than what they asked for. Right? So I'm in the ballpark now. With the first bullet, I got their attention. Second bullet, office experience includes typing, filing, proofreading. Those 3 were on here. I copied them right from word for word because if they ask for it, I want to say I can do it. If I don't say exactly, you know, and then a lot of people again are afraid to copy the exact words. If they ask for it, you better give it to them. Don't call it something different because they're not going to find what they're looking for, especially if the computer is screening. And that's why we worry about those computers screening for keywords. The keywords are on their job description, I can almost guarantee you. This is how they talk. This is their language. They're going to punch into the computer the words that they're looking for, and it's going to come right from here in most cases. So that's really, it's a matter of matching them up. So I've got these office skills. I then went to the next bullet, customer service. That's my customer service people bullet. And I've got customer service, greeting the customers, answering the phones, and so on. I'm handling complaints pretty much from the description. And in between what they're asking for, I add things to it so it doesn't look like I copied it word for word. So I can do more than just the things they ask for with customers. I can also do other things as well. So I might add those to the list to customize it, make it look like my list. Third bullet, computer skills. They asked for, I believe they asked for computer skills, Word and Excel was preferred. I put that I know Macs and PCs, I could do Word and Excel as my first software, and then I added on Access, PowerPoint, other things. Again, customizing it. What we want them to see is a bullet that says, first of all, you got the computers that they want. They want Word and Excel, they see that, and then they see other stuff, anything else that you have, so that they go, wow, they know more than we need. This is a bonus. This is a perk for us now, right? They got what we asked for plus more. Excellent verbal written communication skills. They said they need someone with good communication skills. I turned it into a fancy sentence. Notice what I did after it. I could have just said excellent verbal written communications and copied what they asked for. I put an example there. Conduct orientations, workshops, and seminars. That's my proof that I have communication skills. It doesn't say what kind of seminars, where I do it, how big they are. That would be down in the job description. Right? That's a duty. Right now you tell them I can do it. Right? I've got what you want. When they finish reading it, I threw on bilingual up there as well. That's a highlight. That can get you hired sometimes. So it's a highlight, bilingual English-Spanish, and some other skills. When they finish reading your highlights, if you've done this section correctly, if you were to cover all your work history, are they going to call you? Or would they be tempted to call you based on what you put here? Is it truly your best highlights for this job? This is where if you have a generic resume or a general one, if you covered everything else, it would be like, oh, this is kind of, I'm dependable and reliable, I'm hardworking. It doesn't say anything about having the skills for this job. They're probably not calling me. And then they'll prompt you to hopefully add some more up there to be the right person. Okay. So this is really what, 10 seconds, they skim that, they're going to want to read the rest of your resume. Right? So it's a matter of cooking them really quick. We don't want to put, and I think it's a format or a template out there. The skills section, as they call it, is at the bottom of the resume. And I still can't figure that out. I read all of their stuff, and then there's these skills at the bottom that they're really good. I go, these need to be up at the top. This will become your highlight section, right? They put the communication skills and bilingual at the bottom. And I might not get that far. As an employer, I have a lot of resumes to read. In a good economy, you could probably get away with it. Right, I put an ad out, I get 3 resumes, I'm going to read them all. I'll probably call in someone that isn't even a perfect match. But when I have 100, I can be picky. Right, so you got to have a good, strong start. Then we get down to the work history. We've got the job, the company, the city, the state. We've got your job title. We've got your job duties. Do we see any paragraphs on here? Yeah, notice I eliminated all paragraphs. Bullets or paragraphs, which one do you think an employer wants to read?
Bullets.
Right, I'm skimming, remember. As an employer with a lot of stuff to read, do I want to read a big paragraph right at the top here? And unfortunately, that's what a lot of them start off with. It's a profile, and there's this big long paragraph I got to read, and I'll skip it. Because I can skim bullets a lot quicker. I can skip a bullet and go to the next bullet very quickly. If I'm reading a paragraph and I get to something I'm not interested in, I'll skip the whole paragraph and go to the next section. I might miss something out. So you don't want to help them to miss that. So bullets preferred. If you want to do paragraphs, that's fine. Lots of templates do show paragraphs. I just wanted to let you know why bullets may work better. You can use underline and bold however you want. You don't see any italics on here, and someone had told me, I don't know, I haven't actually witnessed it or seen it myself, but someone said the computer scanning program sometimes will have trouble scanning italics. So I took that to heart, and I said, I don't want to take a chance putting italics on here if a computer might screen me out. So bolding, underlining, usually okay. If they do ask for a text version of your resume, that means they are going to use a computer. And when they ask for a text version, you take off all the bullets and underlines as well. Right? And you'll see that specifically on a text-only version. It's a computer that's going to screen. A computer may have screening bullets and underlining and bolding and things like that. So literally, you send a really ugly-looking resume, but just all text. It'll be, the format looks really bad, but a computer screens it. The computer doesn't care. Okay, let's see. We've got dates off to the right. Notice the other thing about this, when I look at it, things are really balanced. Now, this is my own preference too, but many templates are like this. Everything lines up. The dates are nicely lined up in a column here, and I tabbed them out to a spot. that all the job titles are bold and underlined. So if I wanted to jump to job titles right away, I can cleanly find them. It's very easy to read. Lots of, as they say, using the white space. I didn't kill my margins, as they call it, and keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller until, you know, a half inch all the way around the outside. This is leading me to my next quick topic, and that is 1 page versus 2 pages. How many have heard you have to keep it to 1 page? You've heard that? Okay, how many actually are following that? Not everyone's afraid, but look, raise their hand. Okay, all right. So why would we keep it to 1 page? I'll start with the logic behind it.
They get bored because of the fact that they're scanning, and there's so many.
Yeah, now as an employer, as a person, if I had a choice, if they said, do you want to read 1-pagers or 2-pagers, of course I'm going to pick the 1-pagers, they're easy to read, right? I mean, that's the first choice. Now think of an employer trying to get the most qualified, best fit for their position. Do I want to leave the 2 pages out?
No.
Maybe, maybe not.
Depends
right?
on the job.
Yeah, it depends on the job. It depends on what the experience level, you know, an office clerk. But
Versus
even
somebody who's a
then-
manager, you're gonna wanna have
Right.
more.
Yeah, teacher, professor, and
It's
engineer.
more- yeah.
I'm going to expect to see more than 1 page. The problem is that because we're trained in our head to keep it to 1 page, we start to do a bunch of different
They
stuff.
changed it,
Yeah.
years back, it was they expected you to have more than one, they wanted all the
Yeah.
information.
Now, yeah.
Then I come back and I'm like, no, keep it simple, stupid, 1 page.
Yeah. So
As a manager in hiring people, I skimmed the first page, and if I was interested, I'd look at more,
right.
but you need to put the most important stuff on the first page
We talked about
so that you
Yeah.
can see it, and then if I want to know more about you, then I don't mind 2 or even 3 pages. I just,
It's
That's-
straight from a manager, see? And that's exactly what you have to think about. Here's what happens if you're limiting it. If I go into making and I'm a psychology major, so I get into psychology, as she said in my intro. If I am going into creating my resume with the limit of I have to stay to 1 page, I'm going to do some weird things. First of all, I'm going to start cutting things out. There's no way I can get all my information on 1 page, so I start to decide what's not important. Now, is that a good thing for me to do? Because an employer is the one who's going to be looking at it, deciding if they like it or not me. So I'm just going to pick things randomly and say, well, you know, they didn't ask for a forklift driver, so I'm going to take forklift off, and I'm going to take off this thing because I don't think they need that, and I don't think this is that important. Well, God, I got 3 more lines. Well, that's not that important. And see, I'm starting to go into the important stuff now because I got to get it to 1 page. And I just eliminated important stuff. And someone else who didn't limit themselves to 1 page, who left that stuff on, now looks more qualified than me. And I just eliminated myself.
just make sure you have everything that they want.
And the question is, have everything they want, but some of those other things are what make you marketable and make you different. And so that's where you have to add what makes you unique on there. And if you go to 2 pages, that's okay, as long as she said, page 1, first of all, is relevant and gets people's attention. Right? If I can hook them in, and that's why this highlight section really will do it. You know, if I see good stuff here, I'll read 3 pages. We try to limit it to 2, of course.
So almost have like the highlights, the professional experience being the main thing.
It is
And then if you have to
right.
have what jobs you've had,
Right.
if they went to the 2nd page.
Right.
It
And
just shows
there
your
is
work history.
there are some strategies as to just how to do it. If I have jobs that are relevant, I'm going to put them, I'm going to start with my employment history, put education and all the extra clubs and activities and volunteer on page 2. Right, because I get that core stuff on. If they like what they're reading, they will turn the page, just like you do with a book. And that's just psychology. If the bottom of page 1, it still got me interested, I'm not going to say, well, you know, they probably stopped on page 2. I'm reading it to see if there's more, right? So you suck them in. Right? I always talk about how you're reading a book at night, you say 1 more page, turn the light off, and you read all the paragraphs, like, oh, I gotta, also you're reading the rest of the chapter, right? And it just naturally happens. You do the same thing with a resume. Good stuff on the bottom of page 1, so be strategic what you put there. But yeah, limiting yourself to 1 page, font size goes, you start shrinking the font down. I just go down to 7, I can get everything on. Now I can't read it. As an employer, readability is huge for me. Right? I got a bunch of 12 font ones that are easy to read, and I got yours at 7 font. Yours is font really quick. You got it all on 1 page, but it's not effective. Right? The other thing is the margins. You start shrinking margins and shrinking them, and I got this page that's full of stuff, and it's got this tiny little white line on the outside. I don't want to read it. Lots of paragraphs, right? I looked at it, I go, a bunch of paragraphs in 7 font with a small margin. Yours goes in the trash. I got plenty of others that are going to be easy to read, that are going to be qualified. So readability, I call it, is huge. Readability, font size, margins, spacing, bullets versus paragraphs, things like that, make me want to read it. And then when I start reading it, of course, content is the second piece. You have the right stuff on there that I customize from that job description. Okay, down at the bottom, and of course I worked at a college. I didn't put education at the bottom because I don't know what college is or something. But this one, their work experience was more relevant than their degree. So my experience, and hate to say it, I talk to employers and they say, no, I want experience. They don't say I want a degree and then experience, although they'll put it on their description if they require it. The company requires a bachelor's.
Is it okay to put when you graduated from college if you're older?
Okay, so we got the whole question about dates. I knew that would come up in a minute. So now's where you start watching my time because I can talk forever. Okay, I got all kinds of tips. Okay, so the whole age thing. I should not be able to figure out how old you are on your resume. I should not be able. Do not tell me you graduated high school in '74, because I will quickly get on my calculator and start adding it up. And I can figure out pretty closely to within a couple years how
But
old
if you
you are.
look at my job history and the years that I worked, you're
Okay.
gonna figure it out.
So let's fix that
And
right
I
now.
was putting
then.
relevant
Okay.
stuff
I'm going to draw out a suggestion on how to handle it now, because when I finish, they're not going to hold you out unless they require application at the time of applying. Now, first of all, what is the most common way we apply for jobs? The ads say email a resume to, right? It doesn't say email an application. Email a resume, the majority. Now, some of them, they force you to do the application online and retail and things like that. But if it says send your resume to them, you are in great shape at this point. They will not know how old you are. We take the date off your education if it was previous to, say, 15 years. I wouldn't go more than 15 years. Just drop the date off. There's no requirement that says it has to be on a resume. In fact, there are no rules for resumes. There's a book called 100 Best Resumes. There's 100 ways to do it. There's no best way that an employer says has to be done. So.
But sometimes I try to do it the online resume thing. They ask you when you're the last year of graduation of your high school.
Yeah. I don't, personally, I don't like templates because
But they're asking you by the time I just, they know my age is so they don't want to hire me.
You do not, on an application, you're required to put it on. You have to put
Yes.
the graduation date. On a resume, you do not have to.
Oh.
So if it's asking on a resume template, you just leave it blank. Don't put it in there.
But if they didn't ask, what are you gonna do? I mean, they still want to hire you.
Keep in mind, if they ask you in an interview, you're sitting in an interview. And that is the goal of your resume, is to get you in the door, right?
I think what she's saying, if I do understand her question or her statement, is the fact that there's a lot of, let's say, larger corporations now, they do require that you do provide an online application
Right.
along with your resume. And on that online application,
Yeah, you have to
they
put
do
it on.
have
That's
to
what I'm
put the
saying. Yeah,
application.
with application, you have to put it on. And then it's up to them, the balls in their court. If they discriminate, you can't really control that. But any job that says send resume to without the application,
Okay.
which is still the majority unless you're in a particular industry, like
Right.
education, has to be the application, things like that.
And discrimination works both ways, because sometimes I've looked at positions and said, I don't want to hire someone who's 22.
Right. Oh yeah, I got reverse discriminated against early on when I got my big degree and I was 25 and no one wanted to hire me as a manager. That was a little kid. So, oh well, and I dealt with that for a while, until I grew a mustache or something.
So then here's my question, Anthony, and you might be on track to be answering.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
Go
wait?
ahead, yeah.
So currently I'm not employed,
Okay,
and my last position separated me.
okay.
So what's the best way for me to represent myself in my 30 years experience since the first time?
Okay, and that is a separate question, so
It is.
hang on to that.
Okay.
Hang on to that. Let me do the date thing first.
Okay.
So I don't want to date myself on my resume, right? So I go back 10 to 15 years, and we'll talk employment history first. So I have this job, I have this job, I have this job. I just went back to You know, like say 2000, let's say go back 10 years, or 2004. If I go back to 2004, or right around there and I look for a career change or a job change or a title change, if I'm at the same company for the last 20 years. And I stop at that point with dates, bless you, and I put in a new heading, a whole new heading, just like professional experience education, new heading, other relevant experience. Other relevant experience, and I continue my work history with just the relevant stuff that applies to this job.
No dates.
With no dates.
That's right.
Same format exactly, but no date. I just dropped the dates off. And what I'm saying is now where do we get the 10 years from? This is standard on applications. It's the only guideline that's out there that on many applications they account for your last 10 years of employment. So we use that as kind of a guideline, 10 to 15 max, and we find a natural break. We give them their 10 years with dates, which is what they want. And then we say there's some other relevant stuff before that, but I'm not going to tell you when. And we don't care. We don't want them to know. And they see this great relevant experience. It's a way you can go back 20 years and put something relevant on there without them seeing what it is. And if anything, it raises curiosity. When, how, what do they do, how long ago, and they call you in for an interview. Right now I'm interviewing, that's what I want. I want to be in front of them. I want that opportunity to sell myself. So that is the purpose. If you're sending your resume out and no one's calling, your resume is bad. That's the best I could say. Something needs to be changed on it. Don't keep sending it out if it's not getting results. Something needs to be changed. We'll change the format. We'll fix something. We'll customize more. Right? And then we'll try it again and see if that works. And then we'll try it again and keep doing it. Okay, so good with the dates?
Yes.
I mean, it changes everything because now you don't have to put those dates on there. Now, don't do that with the employment and then forget your strategy and put the date you graduated high school, it was 1974. That'll defeat the whole purpose of, you fold them on the, on the employment and then you put that date there. So anything 15 years or before you drop off, they can add up 15 years, they can add up 18 years for high school, they can get you, at least, in your mid-30s maybe, and then maybe they'll add in a few more years for all your employment, and they got you maybe at 40 at the most. Right. And this works really well for as we say, mature job seekers. They're very happy now because I just made it 40. Okay, so good with that. Now, she had a different question. You're talking about you've been out of work for a while. You're talking about a gap in work history, that type of thing? Or?
Well, yeah, I was separated in October, so I've been unemployed since October.
Okay.
And so anyone looking at my resume sees that not only there's no other gap, and a lot of times in applications they'll ask you reason for leaving. You got to be honest.
Yes, you do.
Because that's where you want to be.
Right.
Yes, you want to be honest because that's where your relationship is going to be.
Right. So are you talking how to deal with that specifically, that it was a separation, or are you talking about the gap on your resume now in terms of not working? Kind of, yeah.
I think, because I've never had trouble finding a job, and I do have experience. And this is the first time that first time I've been terminated. I'm not getting phone calls. So the only thing different is this.
The gap.
So how do you get around that?
So this is really important also, and this is very common too because we work a lot with the Work Source Center, and they are the EDD office, the unemployment office. So we will get clients many times with 2 years unemployment, 3 years unemployment, things like that. They're still looking, and they come in and they say, "This huge gap. No one's calling me." I'm gonna throw some bad information out there, but would employers rather hire someone who's employed or unemployed? Okay. Some stuff. If I can steal someone from another company, but it's a little bit more than that. What am I concerned about the unemployed person? Why would I rather have an employed person?
They're losing some of their skill set, or they're not as utilized in their skill set anymore.
Right. Skills aren't being used right now. Skills are starting to get rusty. More importantly, some of the deeper stuff. Why are they not working? What's going on? Why is no one hiring them? Are they lazy? There must be something. They're going on interviews and they're going on interviews and no one's making them an offer, and they really start to worry. It actually makes it easier to go try to steal someone who's employed already because they're employable, right? Even worse, I had an employer call. He said, "Well, I don't know why they're not working for 2 years, but maybe they got injured or something." Or, someone went as far as saying, well, were they in jail during that time? And what happened when they weren't working? And I started to think about it. I said, this isn't a matter of them, saying employed or unemployed, who would I rather have? This is about their concerns, and real concerns as an employer. So how can we say we were doing something during that time? What things can, there you go. And then you start to think of a lot of things. And it usually starts with volunteering. That's the easiest one to think of. Go out and volunteer and put something on there and say, this is what I was doing during that time.
That's how I did. I had a 10-year gap of being just a home mom, domestic engineer.
That's our biggest
So
challenge.
I was a domestic engineer, but 30 years working with Boy Scouts.
Yeah, and I even say, throw out the I was raising my kids thing, because a lot of them think that they have to show that. If you were volunteering at your kid's school during that time, don't say I was staying home taking care of my kids. I was at the school volunteering. Right? They don't need to know about that. Yeah, we want to get as far away, unfortunately, I don't know why, because employers have kids too in most cases, that they for some reason don't give credit to raising your kids. And we need to understand that. We don't want to say for 10 years I stayed home and raised my kids. I will dig and dig and dig and find out what else you did. And it turns out you volunteered. It turns out that you cared for a sick relative. I had a nursing student who cared for her dad for a whole year. She couldn't work. She took care of him at home, and she said, I got this year gap now. I made a big mistake. And I said, well, you took care of your dad. You didn't make a mistake. But what did you do when you took care of him? She goes, well, I can't count that as my dad. I said, no, you were caring for an older adult. And what did you do? Fed him, had activities, transported to the doctor. We use these fancy words. Transported, provided proper nutrition. We talked like a nurse. And we created a nurse description for her last year. And we put it, where we put it? Not in some separate volunteer section at the bottom. We put it right in the middle of the employment section. And we couldn't call it employment anymore because it was non-paid. So we changed it to professional experience. She worked as a caregiver at a private company, was private residence in Valencia. Job title, caregiver, volunteer in parentheses. We had to say she's not paid. And then we had a full description. It was really cool.
You do list that it was a volunteer position.
We did, yeah. She was concerned about misleading, and I said, it's not called employment anymore. You don't have to worry. She said, yeah, but it looks like I was just a caregiver for a company. And I'd rather not be caught off guard during an interview and have to explain it. So she put not unpaid or non-paid or volunteer or something in parentheses after, though. Kind of minimize it a little bit. Like, you'd be surprised how many skills you are using and doing, and the things that you do. If you're networking, even one-day volunteer events, whatever you're doing, we need to account for. You're helping people out with things. Someone was cutting yards or doing, irrigation systems. That's what he did as a career. He's unemployed. Nobody's helping the neighbors out. But various jobs, doing yards. We fill it with what you're doing, not with what you're not doing. And then you start to make yourself look marketable again. And then you can compete a little bit more. And here's what employers do. You got rid of they're injured, and they're in jail, and they weren't doing anything, and they were lazy, and you're too, well, you got some skills. Right? Now you can compete again. Now with my last 1 minute, because I don't want to throw the next person off. On the back side of this resume is a different format. There are different kinds of formats. I showed you the format that employers most prefer. It's called the chronological, where we put our work in order by date, starting with the most current one, and then going backwards. This one's just a little bit different. If I absolutely cannot fill a gap in your chronological work history, we will then switch to a functional format. And the functional format, instead of putting the work in order by date, we have these skill areas, or skill sets they call them. And I say I've got people, remember for this job description, I've got people skills, I've got office administrative skills, and I've got computer skills. So this one I want office, customer service, and other. And then you got your employment history at the bottom. They still will see the gaps, they'll see the dates and everything. You can't leave those off. They'll see them, but they're minimized, right, down at the bottom, after all your great skills. And then everything else is pretty much the same. The highlights is the same, the education the same, and so on. So I just want to show that other format. A lot of this you would have to do one-on-one. Some of it's situational. If you're concerned when you were terminated, how do I handle that? What do I do? We would want to do a one-on-one appointment and kind of talk about how to word that. How are we going to explain this to the employer without it looking bad? Don't put terminated reason for leaving. We find out what the termination was for, ask a lot of questions. Were they downsizing? Were they reorganizing? Was it a new management style? Was it, there are things to not put fired or laid off. I don't even like laid off. I like let go more than laid off. But sometimes if you were let go because of a reorganization, we put reorganization. That's the reason you were laid off. We don't put laid off. That's a bad thing. Yes?
And legally, when employers talk or hiring people, they cannot ask why you were fired. But unofficially, these guys go to lunch together.
Oh, yes.
So
It's
going to come out, it's just not going to come out officially. So.
Yes, and that's why you don't want to lie. You want to find the best way to present. I love what you said. You're not unemployed. When they say, oh, I see you were unemployed for this time. Actually, I was in a career transition. That's the best thing I learned today. Career transition, we use that one.
And just real quickly, the one thing that I did during one career transition was take mediation training. So I'm a volunteer mediator. And that's good skills in the workplace.
Yeah, training and mediation.
Anything that you can do.
If you took a class or a workshop or something that you can put in here, that counts too. A lot of the students will fill a year gap with a full-time student, colleges opinions, and then they put down, joined a club and did this and did that. So you can fill those gaps up. That is the goal initially when I work with someone. So we didn't get to cover the cover letter, unfortunately. Many of them will ask for a cover letter and a resume, but there are two samples.
Go ahead.
Real quick? Okay. There are just two quick examples. I'm running interviews. No, okay. So real quick, cover letters. There are two samples of how to do cover letter. If you do a search on the computer, sample cover letters, you'll get thousands of samples. Again, no best way to do it. So I'll just go to the general definition of what it's for. It's to introduce you. It's to break the ice, and it's to tell them that you're qualified. So, I mean, that really is it. Most of them you'll see is 3 paragraphs. I'm applying for this position. Here's why I think I'm a good fit. Please give me a call. It's fairly simple. It's, almost always it's just 1 page or half a page or 3/4 of a page. A different format of laying that out is on this page, and this is a little more assertive, I guess, on the very back. It's the you need, I can offer format, where you just kind of take their job description and you put down what they asked for and you say, here's how I need it. Right? And you just do they look at it and they go, wow, okay, this person clearly meets my needs. They go to the resume, they see a lot more in detail, and then they call you in. It's a little more of a assertive, I was going to say aggressive approach. It's like, look, I meet your needs. You said this, I said this. But it's pretty cool, just to kind of show them that you meet it. Okay.
One thing that I noticed, especially doing web design, is that when you put tables in, people tend to gloss over them. So it's almost better if you put these table points almost in a bullet list.
Yeah.
Because the bullets are easy to look at and they signal summary right there. I mean, it's kind of an automatic thing. So using bullets rather than tables to people mean data. And when people are looking at something, data is not what they want to be looking at. So bullets actually would be a better choice.
And Debbie is our club webmaster, by the way.
No, but it is true. A table usually is full of data. So yeah, bullets for sure, because bullets are more skimming. So.
I would never use a table and the cover letter should be short, but it needs to illustrate that you can communicate effectively.
Right.
And it's kind of a conversation should be short, and I would say never a table.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I was in a workshop with a college, our vice president of the HR department, and she said when you apply it to college, those of you who want to apply it to college, she broke the rules completely. She said, cover letter, we want to see everything. It's almost like those government positions where they say 5 pages is fine, give us everything, explain why you fit in here, explain it, and I was all, really?
I'm working in government.
Yeah, exactly. That might actually impress me or something. But yeah, bullets for quick skimming. But yeah, you can see how short they are. They're short and to the point. You want to make it easy for them to read. So.
If you have to do a table too, if you do them like different colors and don't put the border lines on there, so you have like a light gray and then a white, a light gray and white, that doesn't necessarily signal a table to people. Just leave your borders and your grid lines off.
Yeah.
Soften it up.
Just one related comment with everything that you've gone over with them about the resume and the cover letter. Many of the job postings that you're going to see now are having online applications, and so you will not be submitting a hard copy of anything. So the language that you use and the ability to summarize it, for example, your cover letter might have to fit into a text box that only has 200 characters. You have to be very precise and very clear about what you want to put in that and why. Your resume might require you to put it in a specific format through that online application. You're going to see less and less of this and more of the online.
The one, because I've been applying to so much lately, is I had to create just an information page in documents for me that had like all of my employment and the addresses, telephone numbers, references, where I've lived. I mean, and I just put that into a document that I can then just go and get easily, because it was just making me nuts to go, oh my God, now I gotta fill out all this, and what was that
I think
again?
it's actually best to have two formatted. One that's like a physical, you know, as well as an online resume, in which it's formatted just exactly how a lot of the online applications are set up. Because then that makes it so much easier for you.
We have one more comment over here, and then I wanted us to
When you
take a
do the
break
documents.
because for interviewing, we have to set up some stage props.
Oh, okay.
So take a 15, a short 15.
I just want to let you know that when you're doing alt text, remember that you have characters in there. So you could do a lot of stuff with semicolons in between, or you can just put a space and an asterisk and a space. Okay, so you can do things to separate your entries out in a plain text. Just remember you're not relegated to semicolons or periods or full sentences. So you can actually put a bulleted list, but it'll be ongoing as opposed to just line upon one side. So use the fonts carefully that you have, that you can do on plain text.
So we do have handouts, and I think that there's going to be, like Wendy said, there's going to be homework assigned. We will have to come back together, the panel will come up and have a time for a few questions before we adjourn. So as I say,